A millionaire can legally force you to lose weight from beyond the grave to claim your inheritance, or leave everything to their dog. For one nanny, the call came on an ordinary Tuesday. The estate lawyer's voice was calm, clinical. She was named in the will. The amount was life-changing, but to receive it, she had to fulfill one specific, shocking condition. These aren't urban legends. They're enforceable clauses, and for Nanny Clara Reid, the condition wasn't about weight or pets. She'd cared for the reclusive tech billionaire Arthur Vance for 7 years, until his sudden death. The inheritance was $12 million, but the single line in the will that changed everything required her to do the one thing she'd promised herself she never would. Clara had made that promise the day she started, holding the hand of Arthur's 4-year-old daughter, Lily. The child's mother had vanished 2 years prior, a subject never discussed. Arthur's only rule was absolute: never contact the mother, never speak her name in this house. He paid Clara double the market rate, built her a private cottage on the estate grounds, and in return, she became Lily's entire world. For 7 years, Clara honored that silence. Arthur Vance wasn't just wealthy. He was the architect of Ether, a data security empire that made governments his clients. His net worth was estimated at $4.2 billion, but in his final years, he became a ghost in his own mansion, paranoid, surrounded by encrypted screens, speaking to no one but Clara and his lawyer, a man named Julian Croft. Then, on a Thursday in November, Arthur didn't come down for his morning tea. Clara found him in his study, slumped over his desk, a single sheet of paper under his hand. The coroner would call it a massive coronary. He was 58. The reading of the will was held in the same study 1 week later. The only people present were Clara, Julian Croft, and Arthur's younger brother, Marcus Vance. Marcus had flown in from Zurich, his suit crisp, his smile not reaching his eyes. Julian cleared his throat and began reading the dry legal language. The bulk of the estate, the company shares, the art collection, all went into a complex trust for Lily, with Marcus named as the executor. Clara felt no surprise. Then Julian's tone shifted. "And to Clara Reid, for her unwavering care and loyalty, I bequeath the sum of $12 million to be dispersed from my liquid assets." The air left the room. 12 million. Clara's hands went cold. Marcus's chair creaked as he leaned forward. Julian continued, his voice carefully neutral. "This bequest is contingent upon the satisfaction of one condition." He adjusted his glasses. "Within 30 days of my death, Clara Reid must successfully locate and facilitate a meeting between my daughter, Lily Vance, and her biological mother, Elena Shaw. Furthermore, Clara must personally convince Elena to sign a pre-prepared custody waiver, relinquishing all future parental claims in the presence of a notary. Only upon the filing of that notarized waiver with this firm will the funds be released." The condition hung in the room, monstrous and precise. Find the woman Arthur had spent a fortune erasing, bring her back, and then get her to legally abandon her child forever. Marcus Vance let out a low, disbelieving laugh. "He's joking. That's impossible. And illegal. It's coercion." Julian slid a manila folder across the desk toward Clara. "It is neither. The condition is a test of effort, not guarantee of outcome. The waiver is a standard document. The courts have upheld far more creative conditions. You have 30 days, Miss Reid." The clock started at the pronouncement of death. Clara opened the folder. Inside was everything Arthur had never shared. Elena Shaw's last known address, from 5 years ago. Blurred photos from a private investigator. A psychiatric evaluation stating Elena had struggled with addiction and unstable housing. And a single, recent bank statement showing monthly payments from an anonymous trust to a shelter in a city 400 miles away. Marcus stood up, his voice a knife. "This is absurd. She's a nanny, not a bounty hunter. That woman is toxic. Arthur spent years protecting Lily from her. Now he wants to dredge her up. I'll contest this clause in probate court tomorrow." Julian didn't blink. "You are free to do so, Mr. Vance. However, the will contains an interim clause. Any contest from a beneficiary results in the forfeiture of their own share to the residual estate. In your case, that is your role as executor and its annual stipend of $200,000. Marcus paled, then turned his anger on Clara. "You won't do it. You love Lily. You know what that woman did. You're not this greedy." But Clara wasn't looking at him. She was staring at the bank statement. The shelter was called The Haven. The payments were exactly enough for a single room every month, like clockwork. Arthur had been keeping Alina alive, but just barely, and he had been tracking her. This wasn't a wild goose chase. It was a trail of breadcrumbs he'd laid, knowing only Clara would follow it. That night in her cottage, Clara sat on Lily's bed, watching the 11-year-old sleep. $12 million was freedom. It was security for her own aging parents. It was a future. But the cost was to betray the core promise of her life here, to shield Lily from the chaos of the past, to become the instrument that made her mother officially disappear. She opened the folder again. At the very bottom was a handwritten note on Arthur's personal stationery, dated the day before he died. It was not part of the legal will. The script was rushed, shaky. Clara, I trust only you. She must choose to sign. Lily must see she chooses to leave. It is the only way to kill the ghost. Do not let my brother interfere. He knows less than he pretends. A.V. The word kill was underlined twice. Clara's phone buzzed. An unknown number. A text message appeared. Walk away, Nanny. That money is cursed. You have no idea what you're stirring up. She deleted it, her heart hammering, but a minute later a photo came through. It was a grainy, long-lens shot of her, taken that very afternoon, leaving the lawyer's office. They were already watching. The 30 days had begun, and the first threat had just arrived. Clara knew then that Arthur Vance's final game wasn't just about inheritance. It was a trap, and she and a missing woman named Alina were the prey. Clara didn't sleep. She packed a go bag, told the estate's security detail she was taking Lily on a sudden educational trip, and drove to a motel 60 miles away, using cash. Her first call was to an old college friend, Maya, who now worked in digital security. I need to know if this number is traceable, and I need everything you can find on an Alina Shaw, last pinged near a place called the Haven Shelter. Maya asked no questions. The fee was $5,000. Clara wired it from her savings, watching a third of her safety net vanish in a blink. By dawn, Maya called back. The text came from a burner, dead now. But Alina Shaw, that's a deeper well. Your billionaire was thorough. I found layers of erased records, hospital stays, court filings, all sealed or expunged about 7 years ago. The money trail to the shelter is clean, routed through a shell corporation in Luxembourg. But here's your first crack. The shelter's financial director filed a police report 3 months ago. A man was asking about Alina, getting aggressive. The description fits Marcus Vance. Clara's blood went cold. Marcus was already hunting, and he hadn't found her. The condition in the will wasn't just a test for Clara, it was a race against his own brother. Armed with the shelter's address, Clara left Lily with Maya, with strict instructions and a panic button. The drive to the city was 400 miles of grinding anxiety. The Haven was a crumbling brick building in a neighborhood of shuttered stores. Inside, the air smelled of bleach and despair. A nun named Sister Agnes ran the front desk, her eyes sharp and weary. Clara showed her the photo from Arthur's file. I'm trying to find this woman. It's important. Sister Agnes's face softened with recognition, then tightened with caution. Alina, she was here for almost 2 years. Quiet, she worked in the kitchen, always drawing pictures for the kids. The nun leaned closer, lowering her voice. She left 6 weeks ago. A man came with a job offer, a live-in caretaker position for an elderly woman upstate. She was desperate to get out. We checked the references. They seemed legitimate. Do you have the contact information, the man's name? Sister Agnes hesitated, then wrote something on a slip of paper. The number we have. The man said his name was Robert Hill, but Alina, she was scared when she left. Not of the job, of something else. She kept saying she had to get right before she could see her sunbeam again. That's what she called her daughter, her sunbeam. The phone number was disconnected. Clara's lead was ice cold. She spent the next 2 days in a cheap hotel room, scouring public records, social media ghosts, and employment databases. Nothing. Alina Shaw had stepped off the grid, day 5 of the 30-day clock. Then an email arrived to a private account Clara used only for Lily's school. No subject. The body contained a single link to a cloud storage folder. Inside were documents, a birth certificate for Lily Vance, mother, Alina Shaw, father, Arthur Vance, and a second, earlier birth certificate for a baby boy born to Alina Shaw 15 years ago, Father, unknown. The boy's name was Daniel. The certificate was marked with a single devastating word, deceased. A note file read, "Ask Arthur about the fire, ask him why he really took Lily." It was unsigned. Clara felt the ground fall away. A brother, a fire. She called Julian Croft, the lawyer, her voice trembling. What happened to Elena Shaw's son, Daniel? The line was silent for a long time. Julian sighed, a sound of pure professional regret. That information is not relevant to the condition, Miss Reed. It is to me. Was there a fire? Another pause. There was a domestic incident, a tragic accident. Elena was hospitalized for smoke inhalation. The child did not survive. Child Protective Services deemed the environment unstable. Arthur was granted emergency custody of Lily shortly after. The mother voluntarily relinquished her rights under significant duress. It was a closed case. Voluntarily, Clara shot back. Or did Arthur's money and lawyers make it voluntary? The court record stands, Julian said, his tone final. Your task is to find the woman, not retry the past. You have 25 days. But Clara was already rereading Arthur's handwritten note. It is the only way to kill the ghost. The ghost wasn't Elena, it was his own guilt. He hadn't just taken Lily from an unfit mother. He had taken her from a mother grieving her firstborn child. The condition was his twisted attempt at absolution, force Elena to choose abandonment, make it official, so he could tell himself she never really wanted Lily anyway. Her phone rang. Marcus. She let it go to voicemail. His message was venomous. I know you're digging. Stop. You're opening a door that should stay sealed. That woman is a liar and a wreck. She'll say anything for money. She'll hurt Lily all over again. Is that what you want? I'm filing a petition with the court tomorrow to have you declared an unfit influence and suspend your access to my niece. Enjoy your money hunt, Nanny. You'll be unemployed by sundown. The threat was real. Marcus, as executor, had broad power over Lily's trust, which paid for Clara's cottage, her salary, everything. He could strand her legally and financially in the middle of this hunt. Clara did the only thing she could think of. She drove back to the Vance estate, straight to the one place she'd never entered, Arthur's private archive, a climate-controlled room in the basement. He once told her it held the history of all my mistakes. It was locked with a biometric scanner. She pressed Arthur's cold, lifeless finger, kept in the lawyer's secure storage for estate purposes, to the reader. The light turned green. The door hissed open. The room was a maze of filing cabinets and server racks. It took her hours, but she found it. A box labeled ES Custody, not legal documents but personal ones. Letters, dozens of them in Elena's looping handwriting, addressed to Arthur, to Lily, returned unopened. Photos of a smiling toddler with Lily's eyes, Daniel. And at the bottom, a fire marshal's report. The cause was listed as faulty space heater, but a handwritten note on a detective's card was paperclipped to it. Per AV request, electrical inspection expedited and concluded. No fault found with building wiring. Heater model had no prior recalls. Inconclusive. Arthur had pressured the investigation. He wanted it closed, fast. And then Clara found the final piece. A life insurance policy for Daniel Shaw, a $250,000 payout. The beneficiary was Elena Shaw. The policy was taken out by Arthur Vance 6 months before the fire. The payout was executed 4 weeks after the child's death. The room spun. It wasn't proof of anything, but it was a shadow that changed the shape of everything. Arthur had insured a child that wasn't legally his, and Elena had received a payment that could have set her up for life. Instead, she ended up in a shelter. Where did that money go? As she left the archive, her personal phone buzzed, a notification from her home security system. Motion alert at her cottage. She pulled up the live feed. 2 men in dark jackets were inside, methodically tearing her bedroom apart. They weren't stealing, they were searching. One of them looked directly at the camera, smiled, and then the feed went black. They were Marcus's men. They were too professional, and they weren't looking for Elena. They were looking for whatever Clara had just found. The race was no longer just about an inheritance. It was about a truth someone had already killed to keep buried, and Clara was now holding the shovel. Clara didn't go to the police. The men who trashed her cottage were a message, not a crime she could report. She called Julian Croft instead, her voice steel. My home was violated. I found a life insurance policy in the archive. Arthur insured Elena's son. Tell me who else knows about that box." Julian's calm facade cracked. A sharp inhale. "You accessed the archive? That room is not part of the probate inventory. Its contents are extra-legal." "Who else has access, Julian?" "Biometric records show 3 entries in the last month. Arthur, the day before he died, you last night, and Marcus Vance 2 weeks ago." Marcus, he'd seen the policy, he knew what it implied, and now he was trying to bury it and anyone digging near it. Clara's legal standing was crumbling. By the time she got back to the motel, an email from Marcus's lawyer was waiting. The petition to suspend her access to Lily had been filed, citing erratic behavior and potential psychological distress. A hearing was set for day 28 of her 30-day window. If she lost, she'd be banned from the estate, and Lily would be placed under Marcus's sole guardianship. The inheritance would be the least of her losses. She had to find Elena first, not in 30 days. Now, Maya, her security friend, called with a breakthrough: the life insurance payout, $250,000. It didn't go to Elena Shaw. It was sent to a trust account, then immediately wired out to a medical billing agency called Palisade Health Partners. I dug deeper. Palisade is a subsidiary of a larger holding company. The ultimate owner is a shell corporation registered in the Cayman Islands. The director of that shell is Marcus Vance. The pieces slammed together. Arthur had taken out the policy. The payout was hijacked by Marcus to cover something: a debt, a business loss, a secret. Elena never saw a dime. That's why she was destitute. Marcus had stolen the blood money for her dead child. Clara had a weapon, but she needed the witness. She went back to Sister Agnes with a new question. When Elena talked about her sunbeam, her daughter, did she ever mention a keepsake, something she left behind? The nun thought, then nodded. A music box. She said she'd hidden it before they took her away, in the old place. The walls had a loose brick in the fireplace. She was frantic once, saying she needed to get it back, that it proved she was a good mother. Clara got the old address from the file, the apartment where the fire happened. It was in a neglected part of the city, slated for demolition. She went at midnight, a flashlight in her hand. The building was a shell, scorch marks still visible around a third-floor window. The apartment door was boarded shut. She climbed through a broken window. The living room was a tomb of ash and memory. The fireplace was intact. Her fingers scraped over the bricks until one wobbled. Behind it, wrapped in a plastic bag, was a small, tarnished brass music box and a sealed envelope addressed to Lily. Clara didn't open it. It wasn't hers to open. But as she turned to leave, her flashlight beam caught something else, tucked deeper in the cavity: a small, fire-warped digital voice recorder. The battery was dead, but the memory card might be intact. She took it to Maya, who worked her magic. The audio file recovered was brief, terrifying: 2 men arguing. One voice was Arthur Young, strained. "It was an accident, Marcus, a goddamn accident. We have to call the fire department." The second voice, colder, was Marcus. "An accident that looks like negligence or worse. Her track record, they'll say she was high, she passed out, she killed her own kid. You'll lose Lily forever, or you can let me handle it. I know people, we contain it. We shape the narrative. In return, I need the capital. The Iceland deal is collapsing." A long silence. Then Arthur, broken: "Just make it go away." The recording ended. It wasn't a murder plot. It was a cover-up of a tragic accident, leveraged into blackmail. Marcus handled the investigation, buried the ambiguity, and in return, Arthur financed his failing business ventures. The insurance policy was Arthur's later, guilt-ridden attempt to repay Elena, but Marcus intercepted the money. Arthur's final will condition was his last, desperate play to force a resolution, to make Elena formally abandon Lily, so Marcus could never use the threat of her returning to manipulate the trust funds or the company. Clara now had the truth, and it was more dangerous than she imagined. She emailed Marcus a single line: "I have the music box and the recorder. Call off your dogs and the court petition. We need to talk." His response was instantaneous. A location: a waterfront warehouse tomorrow at noon. Come alone. The next morning, Clara left the music box and recorder with Maya, with instructions to release everything to the press and police, If she didn't check in by 3 p.m., she drove to the warehouse, her heart a drum in her chest. Marcus was there, alone, standing in a pool of dusty light. He looked tired, stripped of his corporate polish. "You should have just taken the money and found the woman," he said. "Now you've stuck your hand in a hornet's nest." "I know what you did," Clara said. "You covered up the fire, you stole the insurance money. Arthur's will is his revenge on you." Marcus laughed, a hollow sound. "Revenge? You still don't get it. He's not punishing me, he's finishing the job. He wants Elena gone legally, permanently, so the past can never be reopened. My brother was a coward. He couldn't live with what we did, but he couldn't undo it. So he created this theatrical final test. If you succeed, Elena signs away her rights, the last loose thread is cut, and the foundation of our lie becomes legal fact. If you fail, the money goes to her anyway, through the residual estate, a consolation prize that keeps her quiet. He wins either way. I'm just trying to protect what's left of this family from your righteous digging." "Where is she, Marcus?" He studied her, then shrugged. "The caretaker job was real. I placed her there. She's 2 hours north, working sober for now. I'll give you the address. You can go fulfill the condition, get your 12 million, but the recorder, the music box, they stay with me. That's the deal." It was a trap, Clara knew it, but it was also the only path forward. She took the address. As she turned to leave, Marcus spoke again, his voice quiet. "She doesn't know about the insurance money. She thinks Arthur threw her out with nothing. If you tell her, if you give her that envelope, she'll never sign that waiver. You'll fail. And then, Clara, you'll have nothing. No money, no job, no Lily. Think about that." Clara drove north, the address burning in her mind. She found the house, a modest cottage on a lake. Through the window, she saw a woman with graying hair, washing dishes, humming. It was Elena. She looked tired but peaceful. On the mantel behind her was a framed photograph of a little boy, Daniel. Clara held the sealed envelope addressed to Lily. Inside was a mother's love and a story that could destroy a second child's world. She also held the power to give a grieving woman $250,000 and the truth about her stolen child. But if she did, she would fail Arthur's condition, lose everything, and leave Lily in the hands of Marcus Vance. She stood at the edge of the porch, her hand raised to knock, the weight of $12 million and one child's future balanced on a single, impossible choice. Clara's knuckles hovered for a second, then rapped softly on the door. The woman inside turned, wiped her hands on a dish towel, and came to the porch. Up close, Elena Shaw looked nothing like the shattered ghost in the file photos. Her eyes were clear, her bearing weary but steady. "Can I help you?" she asked. Clara held out the music box. Elena's breath hitched. She took it with trembling hands, clutching it to her chest. "Where did you find this?" "In the old apartment, behind the brick." Clara then offered the envelope. "This is for Lily. I'm her nanny. My name is Clara." Elena didn't open the envelope. She stared at it, then at Clara, understanding dawning. "Arthur sent you. He's dead, isn't he?" Clara nodded. 3 weeks ago, he left a will. There's an inheritance for me, $12 million, but only if I find you and get you to sign a custody waiver, giving up all rights to Lily forever." The color drained from Elena's face. She stepped back, leaning against the doorframe. "Of course he did, even from the grave." Her voice was a whisper of old pain. "And if I do? Then I get nothing. I'll likely lose my job, my home, and any chance to stay in Lily's life. His brother, Marcus, is trying to have me removed as we speak." Elena looked out at the lake, her eyes distant. "Did he tell you why he took her? The official story?" "He said you were unfit, unstable, after the fire." A bitter smile touched Elena's lips. "The fire that killed my son, my Danny." She opened the music box. A tinkling, familiar lullaby played. "Arthur was there that night. He came to argue about Lily, he and Marcus. Danny was asleep in the back room. The space heater was old, it sparked. The curtain caught, I was in the kitchen. Arthur yelled for me to get out. I ran for Danny's room, but the smoke, it was so thick. Arthur grabbed me, dragged me out. He went back in for Danny, but it was too late. The official report called it a tragic accident. But Arthur, he couldn't live with the guilt. He blamed himself for distracting me for the argument, so he did what he does. He fixed it, with money and lawyers. He had me declared unfit, took Lily, and made sure I would never be able to challenge him. He set up a payment to a shelter to keep me quiet and out of sight. Clara's throat tightened. There was a life insurance policy for Danny, $250,000. Arthur took it out. The money was supposed to go to you. Elena's head snapped up. What? Marcus intercepted it. He stole it. You never got a dime. That's why you were in the shelter. Arthur may have taken your daughter, but Marcus stole the compensation for your son. For a long minute, Elena was silent, the only sound the wind in the trees. Then she straightened, a new hardness in her eyes. She opened the envelope addressed to Lily. It contained a simple hand-drawn card, a sunbeam shining on a flower, and a lock of baby hair. Elena's eyes filled, but she didn't cry. She looked at Clara. What do you want me to do? Clara took a deep breath. I want you to have the truth, and I want you to have a choice. I brought the waiver. She pulled the document from her bag. If you sign it, I get the money. I promise you, I will use every penny to protect Lily, and I will make sure Marcus pays for what he stole from you, but you will never legally be her mother again. Elena took the paper, her fingers tracing the harsh legal language. And if I don't sign? Then I walk away with nothing. Marcus wins. He becomes Lily's sole guardian, and I believe he will use her trust fund to cover his debts and his crimes. Lily will be a pawn. Elena looked from the waiver to the music box to the lock of hair. He made you the instrument of his conscience, one last twist of the knife. She let out a long, shuddering breath. I will sign, not for his money, for my daughter, to give her a protector. She looked Clara dead in the eye. But you will not give me a cent of that 12 million. You will take that money and you will fight Marcus with it. You will get legal custody of Lily. You will be her mother in every way that matters. And you will tell her about me when she's old enough. Tell her I loved her enough to let her go to safety. Can you promise me that? Clara's vision blurred with tears. I promise. They drove to a notary in town. Elena signed the waiver with a steady hand. As the notary stamped it, Clara's phone buzzed. A text from Maya. Marcus filed an emergency motion. Hearing is in 2 hours. He's claiming you've kidnapped Lily. They had no time. Clara sent the notarized waiver to Julian Croft via secure email. The lawyer confirmed receipt. The condition was satisfied. The funds would be released, but the war wasn't over. Clara and Elena drove straight to the courthouse. Marcus was there with his lawyer, looking smug. When he saw Elena walking in beside Clara, his composure shattered. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, called the hearing to order. Marcus's lawyer argued that Clara was unstable, coercing a vulnerable woman and endangering Lily. Then Clara's lawyer, paid for with a wire from her now active funds, presented the judge with a file. It contained the audio recording, the insurance fraud evidence, and a sworn affidavit from Elena detailing the theft and the cover-up of the fire. We moved to have Marcus Vance removed as executor of the Vance estate and as guardian ad litem for Lily Vance, on grounds of fraud, coercion, and moral unfitness. The courtroom erupted. Marcus shouted. His lawyer tried to object, but the judge silenced them with a gavel. She looked at the evidence, then at Elena. Is this your signature on this waiver, Ms. Shaw? It is, Your Honor. And you signed it willingly, understanding it terminates your parental rights. I did, to ensure my daughter has a guardian who will protect her from the man who stole from me and covered up the truth about her brother's death. The judge turned to Marcus, her expression icy. Mr. Vance, you are hereby suspended as executor pending a full investigation. Temporary guardianship of Lily Vance is granted to Clara Reed, pending a home study. This court will appoint an independent trustee for the estate. She banged her gavel. Next case. Marcus was led out by court officers, his face a mask of fury. Outside, Clara felt the world swim. She had won, she had Lily, she had the money, and she had a promise to keep. The final surprise came a week later. Julian Croft delivered a second, smaller envelope from Arthur's safe. It was addressed to Clara. Inside was a deed to the lakeside cottage where Elena lived, now fully paid in Elena's name, and a note. Clara, if you are reading this, you chose compassion over greed. The cottage is for her, the money is for you and Lily. Forgive an old fool who tried to fix a broken thing with a broken tool. Keep them safe. A.V. Arthur had planned for every outcome, but he had hoped for this one. He had given Clara the tools to repair what he had shattered. Clara brought Lily to meet Alina at the cottage. She didn't explain that Alina was her mother, not yet. She simply said, "This is a very dear friend who knew you when you were very small." Lily, curious and kind, took to Alina instantly. They walked by the lake, and for the first time in over a decade, Alina Shaw heard her daughter laugh. Clara watched from the porch, the weight of the $12 million now a weight of responsibility. She had a daughter to raise, a woman to help heal, and a justice to see through. The condition in the will had been a twisted key, but it had unlocked a door to a future she was now determined to build, not just for herself, but for the broken family Arthur Vance left behind. In the end, Arthur Vance's conditional will did exactly what he feared and hoped it would. It didn't just transfer wealth, it forced a confrontation with a buried past. The $12 million clause was a lever designed to pry open a sealed truth and test the character of everyone it touched. For Clara, it was a choice between life-changing security and basic human integrity. For Alina, it was a cruel echo of the power that had taken her child, offering a different kind of loss as a gift. And for Marcus, it was the unraveling thread of a deception he thought was permanent. This story lives in the gray space of estate law, where a testator's final wishes can border on psychological manipulation. Conditional bequests are perfectly legal tools. They can require a beneficiary to graduate college, to marry within a certain faith, or to maintain a specific weight. Their power lies in their enforceability. Courts will uphold them, provided they don't require an illegal act. But as we've seen, the deepest conditions aren't about weight or weddings. They are about guilt, control, and the desperate human need to fix what was broken, even from beyond the grave. Arthur used his fortune as a final instrument of atonement, a flawed attempt to clean a moral stain by forcing a painful choice onto others. But the mechanism he built was cracked by the very compassion he doubted still existed. Clara's promise to Alina transformed a transaction of abandonment into a pact of protection. The money became a tool for healing, not silencing. So what is the legacy of a conditional will? It can be a chain tying the living to the unresolved regrets of the dead, or it can be a key unlocking a chance to make a different, better choice. The document is inert. The morality is imposed by the people who hold it. This makes us ask a difficult question. If you were named in such a will, faced with a condition that asked you to compromise a core principle for a fortune, what would you choose? Is any price too high? And if you were drafting that will, what would you be trying to say about the world, about the people you leave behind? These are the stories that remind us money is never just money. It's a carrier for love, guilt, vengeance, and hope. It's a message in a bottle thrown from the shore of a life that has ended, hopping to find a worthy reader on the other side. If this exploration of legacy, choice, and the shadows in a legal document made you think, then you're in the right place. We untangle the human stories behind the headlines. For more deep dives into the real-life dramas hidden in contracts, fortunes, and family secrets, make sure to hit subscribe, because the most compelling story is often the one written between the lines.